I'm Patrick King, and you are watching SYNTHWAVE Ultra. Today's guest is one of the most prolific, versatile, and creative musicians in this little scene of ours. From soothing ambient soundscapes to VHS nightmares to slow jams about horny robots. Yes, really. And always with a huge grin and a cheeky sense of fun, he is consistently pushing boundaries and creating something truly unique. Welcome my guest today, Alpha Chrome Yayo. Alpha Chrome Yayo, thank you very much for joining me today.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, Patrick. It is my total pleasure to be here.
Excellent. Well, cool. Well, so I guess just starting off, so how did you get into synth specifically? Because I know like you've been doing music just in general for a long time. Like, how did you get more like specifically into the synth stuff?
Yeah, well, I mean, as you say, I've kind of been musicking all my life in some shape or form, but synth specifically, I guess it must have been about 4 years ago now. I was playing a lot of Dungeons and Dragons, and I wanted to make my own kind of dungeon synth scores. So I'd always been really kind of tentatively interested in synths, so I mucked around a little bit with some soft synths and stuff. But I started picking up a few sort of hardware bits and pieces and some slightly better soft synths and stuff, just to kind of make sort of weird fantasy medieval kind of scores that sounded like the inside of dripping caves and all those kind of cool kind of places. So I did that for a bit, just for fun. But it kind of felt like almost like a natural progression to kind of dive into more specifically synthwave type stuff. I'm a huge fan of movies in general, but I really, one of my personal favorite movies is Thief, the Michael Mann one, featuring James Caan, and it's got this incredible Tangerine Dream soundtrack which I adore, and it rarely leaves my car to this day. And I've always been a big fan of stuff like that and Giorgio Moroder, so naturally that led to a big interest in synthwave, and it's just one of those things I kind of wanted to see if I could do it, which was fun. So I really enjoyed making music that was, I mean, the music I make isn't always exactly synthwave, but I guess it lands somewhere in and around that kind of spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's basically how I got started doing what I do now. And as I say, from there, some of my releases are pretty quintessentially synthwave. A lot more kind of aren't, and they're sort of ambient leaning or jazz or whatever weird shit I kind of feel like doing. But that's how it got started anyway.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I think that's one of the things that really stands out about your work is how varied it is. I mean, going through your discography, I mean, you've got Dead Air, which is like I was listening to it earlier, and it's like there's like even like elements of like 90s industrial in there, and like dark synth and like funk, and just like there's even some cool funky elements. And then like then I redid Open House, which was just gorgeous, but that was more almost kind of like ambient, like 80s Japanese jazz influenced, right?
Yeah, big style on both accounts. I mean, there is usually, if I'm at home, I'm going to be listening to or making music, and a lot of the time it is, as you mentioned about in terms of Open House, I listen to a lot of kind of 80s ambient and 80s 90s kind of jazz fusion as well.
Mm-hmm.
And not just Japanese stuff, but a lot of it does lean that way, and that totally informed that record, which was really something I mostly made that album to. I made those songs at weird times of the day, mostly because I'm a terribly rubbish sleeper, so I find myself waking up at 4 a.m, and just to try and kind of soothe my rubbish insomniac brain, I'd start just hammering out these kind of ambient leaning sounds, kind of influenced by sort of Hiroshi Yoshimura, lots of these kind of Japanese ambient guys. And just before I knew it, it became an album, and I thought, hey, I've got this sitting here, and it would be fun to share it. And I'm really glad I did, because it was a really deeply personal thing, but it some people like it, and I've had people get in touch saying they use it for meditation and stuff, and damn, that just warms my heart a lot. But in terms of Dead Air, yeah, 90s industrial was absolutely where it's at. And, you know, I'm a big fan of listening to Trent Reznor and doing a lot of scowling. I mean, I'm a smiley guy, but when you don't see me, I do a lot of scowling too, Patrick. You know? So I like having a good 90s industrial scowl, and I wanted to channel that too. I guess I'm just very fickle. You know, I start with the idea of doing like, this is going to be like an industrial album, and then before I know it, I'm just thinking, you know what, screw it, I just want to do like an Italo disco song in it as well. Why not? I don't think I think it's good to be focused, but also I think it's I think it should be encouraged to kind of go in whatever direction you feel like you want to go in, whether you're listening to something or making music. You know, wherever your ears take you, man. That makes me sound like an asshole.
I know what you
I mean it.
I know what you mean, though. I mean, like you said, you know, just expressing yourself as an artist, and that's the thing too. Like expressing yourself as an artist, and also and just like pushing yourself, and like trying out different genres and stuff like that, like mixing and matching things. I mean, I think that's one of the cool things about synth is that how like it's so broad that like there's just all these different elements you can use in it, and it still falls under this big umbrella.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I know there are people who would be kind of genre purists, and you know, I can understand that too. If that's something you're interested in, if you're interested in what sort of constitutes a certain type of sound and you want to put a label on it, you know, far be it from me to say that's not the right thing to do. It's just something that I'm not particularly interested in myself. I really like the fact that synth, as a wider umbrella kind of term, lends itself to so many different things. Because for me, to get to the nitty gritty of it, to talk about what a synthesizer is, you use that to synthesize so many varied sounds. So it seems silly to me to kind of limit that to just one genre when you literally have your world at your fingertips. That's like reversing a truck or something. I can't quite see where that synth is. I was trying to make a point though. But yeah,
Okay,
you know, you got me.
No, that's a great point, because like I mean, I recently talked to Gregorio Franco, and like a lot of his stuff is very dark and very metal influenced. And I was saying how like his most recent album, it sounds like a death metal album, but he was saying like the entire thing is synthesized. Like there's no like actual like guitars or drums or bass or anything like that. It's all synthesized. And I just said like you said, that's really fascinating how like there's so many possibilities, and you can do pretty much whatever you want with it, just because like, you know, like you said, the world is at your fingertips when you have a synthesizer.
Yeah, completely. And Gregorio was a great example of that. I mean, those albums are heavy as hell, and I love that so much. And I don't know, this is just something for me that I've always kind of liked this, both making music and listening to it. I like when I can't really tell what the instrument is. I like it if I'm a bit puzzled. I go, is that a guitar or is that a synth? There's something kind of, it makes it into like a weird magic trick, and I just find that really entertaining. There's something cool about that.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Yeah. So kind of coming off of that, so you're incredibly prolific. I mean, going through your Bandcamp, and I feel like you put stuff out like almost like, you know, every couple of months you have like a full length LP. So like, I mean, like how do you know, like you like stay like inspired and motivated and everything?
You know, it's odd because to me, I don't really feel like I'm moving fast. You know, I don't really know why. I guess I just, you know, as I mentioned, I don't really sleep a lot. But in terms of getting motivated, I mean, you know, I make music for so many reasons, like loads of reasons. But a big one is because it just makes me really happy to make it and to release it. So that's a continual motivation. Don't get me wrong, there are days where I just, you know, I might have like a deadline to make, a musical deadline, and I just kind of don't feel like doing it, and it's a bit of a slog. But that's the same with everything, you know. I mean, even things like, you know, even sort of hobbies as kind of like as simple as reading a book or watching movies or playing video games. Sometimes you don't feel like doing that, and sometimes you do, and it's the same with so many things. I mean, music's an interesting one because, you know, it lands for many people somewhere between a hobby or a career or a bit of both, or a side gig or a full-time gig, which each of those things come with their different commitments, and sort of motivation comes into play in so many ways there. But in terms of putting out my own stuff at my own pace, yeah, I never don't want to do it. Basically, is how I stay motivated. If I'm having a bad day, and I just know that I can't make music, or I've got like a writer's block type thing going on, so be it, that's fine. Other times I might be having a bad day, and I think, damn, the only thing I want to do is sit and make music. I also tend to have a few things going at once. I've kind of learned that because, again, that I mentioned that I'm a fickle guy, you know, I might want to sort of work on something that's very horror leaning, like Dead Air that you kindly mentioned. But also I might have ideas bubbling in the back of my head for, like, I've got this thing going on that I've been thinking about for ages, sort of like a 90s kids TV type concept album. So I've kind of got that in my mind too. And occasionally I'll be writing something, and I'll start with something that I want to sound sort of, maybe sort of Philip Glass-ish and kind of creepy and horror-ish. And then I think, you know what, that actually sounds like something that would be on like Nickelodeon or something, you know. So I'll sort of set that aside and I'll name it on my computer as like, you know, maybe 90s kids TV, or I have this huge list of like songs I just have like that I call it. I've got my weird pile folder, and I got like 500 songs in there or something. So one of these days I might just start like release the weird pile and just let anyone who wants to sift through it. But I think that's a good thing. Well, for me, it's a good thing is to kind of have a few things on the go, and certainly maybe focus on one thing, but have a couple of ideas bubbling away where you can go, you know what, that doesn't work here, but I'll slip it into this thing, and maybe it'll see the light of day in some shape or form. Or maybe just if I have my friends around for a beer, I can put it on and play it, and they can think I'm ludicrous, and you know, it's fun.
No, that's great, and you know, it's funny too what you're saying with the ludicrous. I mean, I know you were kind of talking about it when you're putting it out, but with Dead Air, was it Bloodthirsty Little Imp? Feed me hot wet blood. It's just like I was listening to that, I'm like, this is just as bonkers crazy as you said it was, but like it's so cool and so entertaining.
Oh man, you know, I had so much fun recording that track, Bloodthirsty Little Limp. I mean, my music, I tend to not have too many of my own vocals on it because I'm a terrible singer, but I do love to scream. I mean, who doesn't? And I recorded those vocals in here, this kind of my little studio, and I've got some like acoustic treatments type stuff, but it's not particularly soundproof. So my neighbors will have heard me shrieking my lungs out for hours upon hours about guzzling hot wet blood, and I'm eternally pleased and grateful to Roy and Dorothy next door that they didn't call the cops. Yeah, man, I love doing that. I think the name from that track came actually from Twitter in a weird way. There's a lovely person who follows me on Twitter whose name is Lovely Joan, and I think I posted something like a weird, very gory clip from like a horror movie or something, and she referred to me as a bloodthirsty little limp, and that just stuck in my head. And I thought, yeah, I want to channel that into a weird song about choking on blood.
Well, that's one of the things I thought was really interesting about that album, because like it has like I know we were talking about how it has that kind of 90s industrial feel to it, but like I feel like it has like a very specific kind of like VHS inflected horror feel. Like almost kind of, I guess maybe like the first thing, kind of like the most comfortable thing I can think of is like The Ring. I mean, like I didn't see Ringu, like the original Japanese version, only seen the American one. But yeah, just that weird like dark, like kind of gritty kind of horror feel, because I feel like it also really came through with that amazing album art where it's like the demon coming through the TV.
Oh man, that makes me so happy to hear you say that. I mean, I guess most of what I do is I generally tend to like put out concept albums for most things, and the concept for this is basically about kind of exactly that kind of old 90s tech meeting kind of strange occult stuff, so like weird sort of evil radio broadcasts and like haunted VHS and stuff, and so much of that comes from movies like Ringu, which I did watch like a month before I started working that album, so I'm sure that sort of was living in my brain. I've always been really obsessed with kind of with videotapes in general. Like I've always been a huge movie fan, and like my local video hire, I spent a lot of time in my video rental when I was growing up. I still watch a lot of VHS, and I released a VHS, but I watched Ring, The Ring. I watched the Japanese one and the American one, and I loved watching that on tape, because to me, there's something kind of magical about a VHS tape, because it's got like moving parts, and it always feels like they're guts, you know, like literal guts. And I think that's really cool, man. And it's the kind of thing like in movies like The Ring, you could imagine a tape being kind of sentient or possessed or something like that. Actually, I took apart. I bought like a video of Shogun Assassin a few weeks back, one of my favorite movies, and it was broken. So I took it apart and tried to sort of fix it. I was really pleased I was able to fix it, but it was more exciting just seeing how the guts of this tape were even more strange than I kind of expected. So that definitely that sort of that's what the whole album is effectively about, is kind of sentient, malevolent retro tech, especially tapes, radios, old CRT TVs. And you mentioned the artwork, which I love so much. It's by Cuban artist Alex Delgado. He's done a lot of work for I know he did stuff with Demi K and a whole heap of amazing other musicians. I've always loved what he does, and I've been wanting to work with him for ages, and I knew that this is the kind of project that he would greatly enhance. So I actually got in touch with him when I was about halfway through making the album, and I had the kind of the bare bones idea of what I wanted to do, and we had a lot of back and forth about what the art was going to be like. And man, he just killed it. As he says, it's got a demon like reaching out through an old CRT TV type thing. It's got a bit of a PS1 kind of feel. He just completely got it 100%. And the reason I reached out to him so early was because I knew what he would make would kick so much ass that I would want to kind of take influence from that. So like, as I say, I'd worked on about half of the album, but at least half the album is informed directly from his art, which I thought was fun, you know. It was such a pleasure to work with him, and I recommend wholeheartedly that anybody check out his wonderful works and buy them, or hire him for any wonderful art projects you might have, because he kicks ass.
Yeah, for sure. Because I remember finding his stuff on Instagram. I guess it was earlier this year, and yeah, he's really, really good. It just has, like, because his stuff has just like this really cool, like, painterly, but like, I mean, obviously in the case of the data cover, like very like nightmarish feel to it.
Yeah, completely. He sort of has that great thing where he delves into the sort of the surreal and stuff, and there's so much personality comes through. It's really incredible. One of the kind of the touchstones that he'd mentioned when he was working on the art was that it was kind of inspired by the Morbid Angel album Altars of Madness. And again, I just love that little bit of kind of death metal was kind of seeping in a slightly indirect way, you know. I love death metal, and now I'm just thinking about Gregorio Franco. I'm all fired up about how much death metal I'm gonna listen to later on.
Nice. No, that's cool. And you know, it's funny too. I mean, I guess because I always thought that, I kind of myself, like I like a lot of like death metal and power metal and stuff like that. And I always thought it was kind of funny how it's like, oh yeah, there's kind of like a weird overlap of like synth and metal, where I mean, like again, like Gregorio Franco. Perturbator has a lot of like a pretty heavy metal and industrial influence, Carpenter Brut, stuff like that. And yeah, like I mean, metal. I mean, like metal is really cool, and like I actually like that's kind of the reason why I started my because I have my big SYNTHWAVE Ultra playlist, and I have my Hell Synth one, which is all like dark synth stuff, which like there's a pretty big overlap in like synth and metal. So like I think that's a really fascinating observation. The fact that that it is definitely there.
Yeah, I think it definitely is. I mean, obviously Dark Synth kind of lends itself really directly to it, but I've always been fascinated about kind of the overlap between electronic music and metal in general. I mean, I used to, there was / maybe still is this huge kind of electronic club near me. I remember going to see like sort of techno acts like Dave Clark and stuff, like back maybe like 2005, 2006, and there was always so many like dudes in like Slayer shirts and stuff there, and I always love that kind of that overlap. And you know, I'm a big fan of anyone who is I mean, sure, people like whatever they like, and if you like just one specific thing, that's cool. But I always get really excited and interested when I'm speaking to somebody whose musical tastes are really varied. I'm trying to see where those kind of paths join up and stuff. I like that. You know, variety is the spice of life. So
Absolutely.
They say.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and again, I mean that really that especially shows in your work. I mean, I like how I was even going back to some of the earlier stuff. What was it, the Trust Me EP? I think, or not Trust Me, like
Take my advice.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, where it's like it's like an 80s, it's like a gritty 80s cop movie soundtrack, and then you have like your golf one, and then of course Page Me, which you know it's so much variety, and like that's like again that's one of the things I really think is really impressive about your body of work.
Oh man, that's really kind. You know, it's something that I guess I look on that as the kind of like the Frank Zappa model. I'm not saying I'm in any way as talented as Frank Zappa. I just mean in terms of his approach. I've always liked that he has such a wide variety of albums, from like jazz to orchestral stuff to doo-wop stuff, and some of it is completely really silly, and some of it's really filthy, and some of it's really serious. I've always liked the idea that you could put out something that is, you know, just absolutely ludicrous, but still be really serious about it. You know, I mean, even if I'm making a song about boning in a golf club after midnight, I'm still deadly serious about it. You know, I think there's a lot of time for. I have a lot of respect for people who can be silly, but also take being silly pretty seriously. I think that's a nice way to live.
Yeah, for sure, and I mean, like, there's definitely something to be said about that. Where like, you know, having kind of a cheeky sense of humor, but like, you know, like. Yeah, having a cheeky sense of humor, but also like you said, like taking it seriously, like making sure like it actually sounds really good, and it's not just like a goofy one-off concept. Like this is like a fully fleshed out idea.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm really into fully fleshed out ideas. In terms of, again, what I try to do and what I make, but certainly what I listen to, I love when somebody has injected so much into that kind of world building, you know, from the art to the music to the track titles to everything that kind of surrounds it. So when I'm making something, I like to think about, you know, how it's going to look and what images I want people to have. So to hear that comes across in any way is the greatest compliment, dude. So I appreciate that very much.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, and that's it. And I feel like that's one of the things too. Just that's what it is. One of the things I like about synth, and just kind of like especially like the synth community in general, is like how people take to it, and how is like there is like this distinct sense of fun to it, because yeah, I mean people can take their music very, very seriously and everything like that, but like if you're not having fun with it, then you know it's just this group of people sitting around with stern looks on their face, being like oh no, this isn't synthwave, this isn't right, blah blah blah. So yeah, it's cool.
I completely get that. Yeah, I totally get it. As I mentioned before, I've never been the kind of guy who's into kind of categorizing music. I don't begrudge people who do, because you know I think that's fine too, and for some people that's interesting in like an historical sense and stuff. But man, you know, any kind of discussions about what is or isn't synthwave, or whether synthwave is dead or alive or somewhere in between, Schrodinger's synthwave, man, I just don't give a shit. I just don't, man. I like making what I make. I like listening to what I listen to, and I love that I live in a world where those two things overlap a lot. And you know, and again, if people want to have those discussions, it ain't no skin off my back. I just it's just ain't for me. You know?
Oh, yeah. That's absolutely for sure. I mean, like you said, just make the kind of art that you want to make, and you know if people like it, they like it, and that's their prerogative. But yeah,
that's it, man. Yeah. I should stress, I'm not saying everyone has to like everything. You know, like what you like, don't like what you don't like. That's totally fine. But just those kind of very specific arguments about what does or doesn't constitute something. You know.
Yeah.
I just can't get excited about it.
Yeah, no, I right there with you on that. So coming off of the synth community thing, so one of the things like I really love that you did, I guess that was earlier this year, was the black tie blowout, where like you know like you had this big live stream, and like people like all around the world were getting all dressed up for it, and it was just this big online party you did. And I remember I didn't catch it live, but I watched the replay of it on YouTube. I'm like, this is such a like a unique thing where like it's basically a big online party. Like that was so much fun. It was like, and, like I mean I could tell you were obviously having just a ton of fun with it. So yeah, that was really cool.
Oh, dude, again, that's just really nice to hear. I mean, that is all I wanted for that night, was for it to be a cool party. Because for me, that's what the best thing. That's where live stream gigs really shine. You know, I'm far from the only person who had real life live gigs pulled this year and last year for obvious reasons. But something really cool that's come out of that is the kind of the prevalence of live stream shows. And for me, the most exciting thing about that is the fact that you can, as you say, get people from all around the world in one place at the same time, hang out, having a cool time. And you know, I felt very lucky doing that. That for me, it was less about whatever the hell I was doing and more about just all these people hanging out, having a cool time together. I like dressing up. It was really to a large extent an excuse for me to wear a tuxedo because I love wearing a tux. I love that people got dressed up for it and stuff. It was so much fun. And I adored doing that show. Again, actually, it was in here, my little kind of studio that I'm sitting in. And it was just so much fun. I just felt really grateful to be able to have, like, when I'm watching a live stream show or doing one, that kind of feeling of having a bunch of cool people from all around the world together at once, and that just couldn't happen under any other circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
Man, to me, that's a real party, and it was just awesome. And I'm really glad that you enjoyed it. But I think it would have been awesome even if I just, you know, with those people there, even if I just stood and screamed into a bucket for an hour. I'm sure everyone, just by the very nature of everyone's being there, would have been a laugh.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Well, yeah, and that's one of the things that's been really cool. I mean, again, because like you said, for obvious reasons, is this prevalence of streaming shows. I mean, I know like there've been like Synth Valley Stream Fest, Static Realms, like they did their big Synthmania, like I think it's like a 5 hour live stream event early in the summer. So yeah, like it's really cool that like folks have been able to adapt to that and like you said, like put on just these big, basically global shows for folks.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's, as you say, those ones that you mentioned, like Synth Valley and stuff, have just been extraordinary. And, you know, have been kind of a lifeline in a lot of ways for me, both being able to do shows and watch shows. It's just been great. And I really kind of hope that, obviously very excited about live music returning, like as in live in the real flesh. But I really hope that the kind of streaming shows don't fall by the wayside, because I love them for that exact reason. Just an absolute blast.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it's been nice because I've been able to personally explore some other weirder avenues with those streaming shows that I wouldn't have. Like I was part of like a jazz festival that oh shit, what was it called? Brilliant Corners Jazz Festival. I feel bad for getting the name because I've always been a big fan of it, and I was able to take part in that, and this kind of like global streaming thing with again with artists from all over the world and stuff. So just things that are, I like when people adapt and make the most out of a shit situation, and that's what the whole live streaming thing to me really has felt like. It's felt like rallying around and making something cool happen out of the guts of something that's immeasurably balls.
To say the least, yeah. Yeah, I mean that's kind of part of why I've been. I mean, one of the things that I've really been enjoying about this project in particular is being able to like, you know, being able to have like actual face-to-face interactions with people again, because like, you know, like it's basically just been my wife and I in the house for the last year and a half, like occasionally seeing you know her brother and his family, and then you know the vaccine rolled out. I'm like, yeah, cool, we can go out again, and then oh wait, Delta variant 2 weeks later. So.
Yeah, dude, absolute same here, man. I mean, I haven't been too far from these four walls myself, and you know, I hang out. My wife and my dog are probably fed up with my nonsense, basically. Well, I hope they're not, but I don't blame them if they are, because you know, I'm sure everyone the world over has a touch of kind of cabin fever going on. But as you say, being able to do this kind of thing, and knowing that there are going to be cool people watching it and stuff, that's amazing. I mean, that's real kind of communication and stuff, and it's real great. It's very, very heartening and energizing, enervating, whatever the good one is, energizing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Cool. Well, I did want to ask, because I know like obviously, like I know we've talked about it on Twitter, like your cooking and everything, because like I feel like I always look forward to your Friday evening Twitter threads where it's like, you know, here's a Alpha Chrome Yayo is cooking, and these just gorgeous meals, and I really like how you did that little EP where you actually included a cookbook with it. Like that was such a smart idea.
Oh, thanks, man. You know, I always worry that, as you mentioned, I do tend to post a lot of like cooking stuff on Twitter and everything. I know posting photos of your dinner gets a bad rap. I don't think it should, man. I love watching whatever people are cooking or eating, whether it's something they made themselves or whether they're out somewhere. I love food. I love cooking, and it really, you know, I was really excited to see that if I posted a couple of like recipes and stuff on Twitter, people, like you said, like I'm really glad that you really like that, and lots of other people seem to as well. So I just couldn't resist putting out a book with a free PDF cookbook. I think it was my friend Travis who'd actually originally suggested it. So thank you to the team, man, for giving me the idea. It was just so much fun doing that. I loved kind of writing, because each song is kind of based on like a different recipe, so it was fun kind of taking like different kind of world sounds and stuff and putting them together for that. I'm really tempted though to do like a full length cookbook, you know, an actual physical one. I don't know, man. Maybe next year. That would be fun if I could. And I also want an excuse to do Alpha Chrome Yayo branded chef's hats, which more than a couple of people have suggested. So I feel like I'm gonna have to. I know Aero Wolf had suggested that, so I was actually looking that up this morning to see how feasible it is. So maybe, who knows, man. This time next year there might be an encyclopedia-sized cookbook with a chef's hat folded inside or something. I don't know.
Hey, I mean, that's the thing is, like you said, I feel like you see people doing all kinds of like branding and merchandise. Because like I was talking to Graham Waller, Strike Eagle, yesterday, and like we were talking about his Strike Eagle like squadron patches, and how they're like legit Air Force ones, like with like the Velcro backing. So, you know,
dude, they're amazing. Mine is just right out of shot up here. It is so cool. Yeah, that's a really sick piece of merch. I just love it. I'm waiting to decide whereabouts on which jacket to slap it. But again, as you say, it's Velcro, so it can kind of go anywhere. Yeah, that's so cool, and he's a cool guy. You know, I really like Graham, and I love his music. What a dude! Yeah, awesome. But I do get excited about kind of about weird and wonderful merch. It's something I get passionate about doing myself, but also seeing other people do cool merch. It just yeah, it's real nice. It boils back to that thing of kind of just world building, I guess. You know, making a whole kind of fully fledged thing is really nice.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, that's one of the things. Like I know, like I really enjoy that in my own artwork. I mean, like I always love doing, you know, like series of things with like recurring characters and like scenes and like settings and stuff like that. So yeah, like that's one of the things that's really fun about art, is just like creating like your own world to you know, build stuff out in.
Dude, 100%, man. Yeah, and obviously you definitely get it, given the wealth of wonderful artworks that you do yourself. You know, yeah. And it's a great way to approach things, I think, no matter what kind of your medium is. Yeah, build them worlds.
Oh yeah. Well, so we got a few more minutes, because I know you said you have to go and drop off your dog, right?
Yeah. I'm gonna see my folks today, and I've got a greyhound, and she could do with running around loads. My folks have a nice garden. She can go crazy in. So I'm not trying to run away, man. This is an absolute delight. As long as I get over there before it's dark, I'm happy, you know.
Yeah, well, yeah, because I was actually going to ask. So I do like to ask people about their pets, and I remember I think it was on Instagram. You're posting about her, and you're saying something like who's my long girl.
Yeah, I had like a couple of drinks the other night, and like I had my friend Stephen and Zoe round for dinner. We sat in our garden. After they left, I was delightfully full of wine. I just, you know, was sitting there with my dog for like 20 minutes going, oh, who's the long girl? Who's the longest lady? Who's the long girl? And she would just look at me with this kind of vacant look of, man, you're an asshole. Yeah, man, she's lovely. She has a big, long dog, and she's long and lovely. This week, yeah, I've been. I'm always loving her, but this week I'm really enjoying having a bit of time to kind of take her out on more walks and stuff, because it's been a bit miserable weather-wise. So now I'm getting a chance to get her the exercise she deserves.
Oh, good. Well, cool. Well, was there anything else that you want to add or promote? Like, was there anything you've got in the works that you want to kind of show off?
As I mentioned, I've always kind of got something going on. Dead Air is my most recent album, if anybody wants to check it out. It's kind of, as Patrick himself said earlier, kind of a VHS leading kind of analog horror beast. I would love you to listen to it. It's full of noise, terror, and pink sludge and stuff. In terms of bodies melting, there's lots of bodies melting in it. In terms of what I've got coming up, you know, man, you know, I've always got things going on here. I've got like some Alpha Chrome Yayo, like Alpha Chrome Yayo pogs in my drawer here and
nice.
stuff. So I want to release those maybe with that like 90s kids TV album that I was talking about. I don't know. I'm kind of about that weird stage where I'm just knitting together, kind of gluing together stuff in my head for possible future things. I just realized that you can probably see right in my drawer there. So there's nothing untoward, but I do have like an Alpha Chrome Yayo 8-track, which I think is the only Alpha Chrome Yayo 8-track in the world that a kind listener made and sent to me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, man, I don't really know what I have next. As always, the best place for anyone who wants to check out more of what I do is Bandcamp, because I adore Bandcamp to bits. I think that's about it from me. I just, you know, again, would love to reiterate that I'm really grateful for anyone who is watching this or who listens to me doing the silly things that I do, because you help me keep on keeping on in so many ways, and I include you in that, Patrick. And thank you personally for having me. It's been a total joy just to get to hang out and chat to you. It's an absolute delight, man.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Then thank you for being on. Like I was especially looking forward to this one, just because I mean you're so much fun on Twitter and Instagram. So I'm like, he's a cool guy, and I'm super looking forward to this one.
Oh man, well that's really kind, man. You know, I've been really looking forward to it as well myself, and it has been completely delightful. So cheers again for having me.
All right, yeah. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining me, and we'll talk to you soon. And yeah.
Adios.
Thanks for watching. That was my chat with Alpha Chrome Yayo. Be sure to check out his huge variety of work on Bandcamp and follow him on Twitter and Instagram. You can follow me online at @PatrickKingArt on Twitter and Instagram as well. Be sure to follow the SYNTHWAVE Ultra playlist on Spotify for tons of synthwave and synth-adjacent music. And don't forget to like this video and leave a comment, as well as subscribe for more great chats with folks from all over the synthwave scene. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time on SYNTHWAVE Ultra.